What is up, everyone? Boshi here, back at it in Raid Shadow Legends, and I've missed a decent amount, so let's jump into it. Alrighty guys, so yes, I have missed a couple of announcements and I do want to go over everything, but I do want to actually start with the most recent thing, and I don't want to keep you guys here too long, so let's go ahead and jump into one of the announcements that they did this morning, and that's new champions being added in 4.2. So we'll go ahead and bring that up right here. So I have yet to actually look at any of these champions, so this should be really interesting. I do want to get a first look at everything. So yeah, let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Alright, so first off, it says we're bringing 10 awesome new champions to help you tackle Teleria's biggest challenges. Check out their details below. So let's start off with this guy named Geomancer. He is going to be a Force Epic, and he's going to be a Dwarf faction, my favorite faction. So I'm welcoming all Dwarves. Hopefully he's good though. Okay, so on the A1, we have an attack all enemies has a 30% chance, or you can get it up to a 40% chance of placing a 50% decrease accuracy debuff for 2 turns. So that's pretty big. An AoE A1, so he's already a candidate for the stun set. And decrease accuracy actually may come in handy with the new dungeons coming out, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Higher dungeons, I should say, not new dungeons. Okay. On the A2, we have remove all buffs, or sorry, creeping petrify. Remove all buffs from a target enemy, then attacks them, steals all buffs instead if the target is under an HP burn debuff placed by this champion, and then reduces the cooldown of quicksand grasp by 2 turns if the target is killed by the skill while under an HP burn debuff placed by this champion. And you can drop this down to a 3-turn cooldown. This seems somewhat interesting, more of a PvP move in my opinion. Highly doubt, you're going to be getting too much out of it from the PvE standpoint, but maybe in Doom Tower waves or maybe the dungeon waves possibly. But let's jump into the rest of this kit to see exactly what this whole quicksand grasp is. So Quicksand Grasp, you're going to have a basic ability of fully depletes the target's turn meter, has a 75 or a 100% chance if you book it, placing an HP burn and a 25% weaken debuff on the target for 3 turns. So that's basic, not ascended. If you are ascended, it's going to be fully depleting the target's turn meter, fill this champion's turn meter by the amount the target loses. That's pretty big right there. And then the regular placement of HP burn and weaken. Yeah, actually, so this is actually going to be pretty cool. Once again, though, another like PvP move because you're depleting turn meter. This may be something for Spider though, just because of the fact of you are depleting turn meter while also placing an HP burn and weaken. And then you can also steal buffs with the A2. But once again, it's kind of a weird situation where, are you going to be in that place to steal buffs on a champion and whatnot? Mostly you're going to see that in PvP. And then he has the passive of Stone Guard, decrease the damage all allies receive by 15% and deflects that damage onto each enemy under an HP burn debuff placed by this champion. Whenever this champion is attacked, it deflects 30% of the damage instead. That's pretty cool. I always like the whole deflect damage mechanic. But yeah, so overall, not a bad champion. He's gonna have his niche situations, not like anything amazing. Definitely pretty cool for like faction wars and stuff like that. Yeah, we'll just have to wait to see him in game because like I see his kit being pretty cool, but not very useful in specific dungeons that I can recall. Doom Tower waves could be pretty cool though. There are a lot of buffing champions in the Doom Tower waves, and fully depleting turn meters and adding HP burn and stuff like that could be actually really cool as well. So not that bad of a champion. Next, we have Ruel the Huntmaster. So this kind of goes into one of my other announcements, and that is the Fragment summon. So I'm sure that you guys are already seeing that we're going to get another Fragment summon. I believe it begins next week on May 11th, I recall. Do not quote me on that. I'll go ahead and put the actual date up on the screen somewhere. I'm pretty sure it's that date though. So this is going to be the new Fragment summon. I know it feels like we just got out of the Underpriest Brogni fusion, and these fusions are coming pretty quickly, unfortunately. So I'm a little bit worried for the amount of fusions that we've been doing. A lot of people are becoming burnt out and stuff, but let's go ahead and see if this champion's actually be worth going after. All right, so Ruel the Huntsman is going to be a legendary spirit champion. He's going to be an attack type champion, and for the Dark Elves, definitely does not look like a Dark Elf. But yeah, so on the A1, we have Vile Arrows. Attack one enemy, has a 50% or a 65% chance of placing a big decreased defense debuff for 2 turns, and then transfers a random debuff from this champion to the target if the target is under Hex. So we did get mentioned that you should play him with Thea or play around with Thea with him. I'll tell you why this is kind of a weird thing with the Tomb Angel, though. Yeah, let's just go through the rest of his kit. So on the A2, we have Unleash the Hunt. Attack all enemies, places an extra hit on enemies under Hex debuffs, then will ignore 25% of each target's defense if there are 4 or more enemies under a Hex debuff. And you can drop this down to a 3-turn cooldown. This is a really cool ability. I like the fact that you get that extra ignore defense. So yeah, pretty cool ability right there, and it actually goes into his A3, and this is one champion I have seen before, so if you're wondering why I know his abilities, that's why. So on the A3, Stalk Prey, place a 50% increased accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns, then places a Hex debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. That alone is really, really cool. The increased accuracy, I think, is going to be a pretty big deal, especially when you are building some specific champions. You don't have to go so far into the accuracy or deplete other stats just to get high accuracy, because you can depend on a 50% increase accuracy from this guy. And my guess is he's going to prioritize his A3 because you want the Hex debuffs up for his A2. And then also places a perfect veil buff on this champion for 2 turns and fills this champion's turn meter by 50%. And you can drop this down to a 4-turn cooldown. So yeah, I think this ability is really cool. You're placing all the hexes, setting up for your A2. You're giving increased accuracy, which is really cool for the whole party. And then you're placing a perfect veil, which is going to be protection for him because he is an attack-based champion. And protection for the squishy targets are always really, really good. The big thing I have with this, though, so his A3 will place a bunch of hexes and increase accuracy. His A2 relies on you having hexes up for you to get that extra 25% defense piercing, pretty much. And they say to play around with Thea, but the issue with Thea is when Thea uses the ability that relies on hexes being up to do more damage, she also removes all those hexes. So it's going to be a little bit weird because you'll be doing his A3, most likely going into Thea's ability that does the damage and then removes all the hexes, and then you're not going to get the benefit of having that 25% armor piercing pretty much on his A2 because there are no more hexes anymore. So I'm not exactly sure what they're meaning by play around with Thea. Thea obviously can reapply hexes with her A1 and stuff, but by that time you're not going to have 4 hexes up again for his next rotation. So yeah, it's a little bit weird of a situation to play him with Thea, but I think ultimately just like that alone will be pretty good. And then let's go into his passive. So his passive is Marked Quarry. Decrease the speed of enemies under Hex debuffs by 5%, and then decrease the resistance of those enemies by 10%. Also increase the damage enemies under Hex debuffs receive by 10%, and decrease the value of heals they receive by 30%. That is a pretty crazy passive, and this is where Hex actually comes in handy with the decreased speed, decreased resistance, on top of him giving increased accuracy. I mean, you're calling for a pretty decently low accuracy count for your other allies if you're purely relying on him. That is something I definitely do not, you know, um, I don't want to, want you guys to do, because building a champion correctly and not relying on other champions is a really good idea. But just saying you could. And then his aura is increase ally crit rate in all battles by 20%. Once again, if you're building around him, you can build some pretty cool stuff, because you can build people with lower crit and stuff like that. But overall, I think he is going to be a great damage dealing champion. May come in handy with the higher level dungeons and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, overall, do I think he's worth going for? I think if you are in need of a damage dealer, and I mean, technically all fusions are worth going for because it's not a free legendary, but it's a free legendary, right? And it's going to be a fragment summon, which are typically a little bit easier. This last Underpriest Brogni fusion was a little rough with the way that they did things. You had to pretty much participate in every single thing. We'll see how this fragment summon is set up and scheduled and stuff like that. But yeah, in my opinion, I think he's worth going for. Um, but yeah, we'll just have to see, I guess. All right. Spent a lot of time on him. So next is going to be Helior. Helior. He's going to be a legendary force defense champion for the Banner Lords. So on the A1, we have Sunshine Halberd. Attack one enemy. Increase this champion's defense by 5%. If this attack is critical, stacks up to 20%. That's pretty big. Also, will also heal this champion by 75% of their defense after attacking if their defense has already been increased by 20%. Okay, so pretty much his A1 isn't going to start kicking in until he A1s at least 4 times, which that might make him a decent solo champion in terms of that, or just longer fights. But not bad. Nothing book worthy wise on his A1, just damage. On the A2, we have Solar Blessing, attacks all enemies and then places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns equal to 20% of the damage inflicted. And you can drop this down to a 3-turn cooldown and more damage books. That's actually going to be pretty cool. So, just based off of his A1 and A2, he's going to be one of those damage dealing defense champions that you really want to like buff up the damage on, because you're going to be gaining a bigger shield depending on the damage, and it's an AoE ability, so that could really help with Doom Tower waves and stuff like that, and possibly even Spider. And then you also have that A1 of increasing his defense based on if you crit or not. And obviously, if you're building him for damage, you're going to build him for crit. So, pretty cool there. On the A3, we have Harsh Light, transfers all debuffs from all allies to a target enemy and then attacks that enemy with the default skill, which is his A1. So his A3 is going to A1 as well. So you can stack or start getting those stacks and heals a little bit quicker. And then converts this champion's resistance into additional accuracy when using this skill. That is actually pretty cool, and you can drop this down to a 3-turn cooldown. So building resistance is actually not going to be a bad thing. The big thing with him, actually, converts this champion's resistance into additional accuracy when using the skill. Yeah, okay. So this is the only ability that looks like is going to be messing with accuracy per se, just because of the fact that his A1 and his A2 have nothing to debuff with, but the A3 does require accuracy in order to transfer debuffs. So this is actually pretty cool. You don't have to necessarily build accuracy with him. You can actually just build resistance, because it's just going to convert the resistance to accuracy when using this ability. Um, so yeah, honestly, you could just build him very tanky and with resist. Pretty much just replace resist with accuracy at that point, or his accuracy with resist, sorry. But yeah, pretty weird ability in my opinion, but really cool actually. So I actually like that ability a lot. And then on his passive, we have Intercessor. Yeah, I think I said that right. Whenever an ally that has 2 or more debuffs is attacked, this champion will absorb 30% of the damage inflicted on that ally. Really cool when it comes to maybe even arena when you're getting Madame Sarist or something like that. That can be kind of cool. But even with Doom Tower waves or even boss waves or bosses, where your allies are going to have multiple debuffs, he can absorb the damage. He's meant to be a very tanky champion, it seems like, but you're also going to want him to do a lot of damage. So he's going to be an interesting person to build, especially with the whole resistance into accuracy situation. And then his aura is increase ally resist in all battles by 60. If you put him in the front, he automatically has 60 accuracy with his A3. So yeah, he's going to be a weird one, but actually kind of a cool kit in my opinion. So looking forward to possibly trying to get him. On the A3, wow. Next champion is going to be Gorlos Hellmaw, an epic spirit demon spawn attack type champion. We have a lot of attack type champions. Attack, the one defense, which pretty much is an attack based champion at that point. And so we have Garlos. So on the A1, we have attack one enemy 2 times. Each hit fills this champion's turn meter by 10% if the target is under a decreased defense, HP burn, or decreased accuracy debuff. Just damage on his A1. Can be interesting depending on what he places. I'm guessing he places those 3 debuffs possibly. So on the A2, we have Raging Hunger. Attacks all enemies, has a 75 or 100% chance if you book him of placing a decreased defense debuff for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown if you book it. So AoE decreased defense is always a very good thing, so I welcome that very much so. So nothing much more to say about that ability, just a really good AoE decreased defense. And then on the A3, we have Gnashing Fangs. Attack one enemy, has a 75 or 100% chance if you book it of placing an HP burn debuff and a 50 or 75% chance. Oh no, sorry. Reading that totally wrong. Has a 100% chance if you book it of placing an HP burn debuff and a 50% decreased accuracy debuff for 3 turns. And then fills this champion turn meter by 20% if this attack is critical, and you can drop this down to a 4-turn cooldown. So with his A1, you're placing all the debuffs with his own kit, so that's actually pretty cool. And you're also filling turn meter with A3 and the A1 as well, so he's going to be taking multiple turns. And then his aura, increase ally attack in Doom Tower battles by 30%, pretty decent one. But yeah, overall, he has a weird kit. I like the fact that he's an attack-based champion with the decreased defense, though. He's also bringing a decreased accuracy and an HP burn, so he's going to be welcome in a lot of areas, because HP burn is always a good debuff to have. Decreased accuracy is, I think, becoming more popular with all the boss abilities and stuff going on with that. And the fact that he's attack based means his multiplier should be at least decent. So pretty cool, in my opinion. Not exactly sure where you'd place him like right off the bat, but yeah, not a bad champion to get. Next we have Hotatsu. Looks like a demon spawn to me, but apparently is a Shadowkin. So epic magic defense based champion for the Shadowkin faction. So first we have Red River. Attack one enemy, has a 40 or a 60% chance of placing a leech debuff for 2 turns if you book it. That is a lot of books on the A1 though. That's unfortunate in my opinion, but yeah. Nothing much to say. I like the leech debuff, but that many books to get it up to a 60% chance is unfortunate. On the A2, we have Rushing Death. Attack all enemies, has a 50% or a 80% chance of placing a decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. AoE decrease attacks, not a bad thing. Decrease attack in general is not a bad thing, especially when talking about hard hitting champions like in Doom Tower or the higher level dungeons. And you can drop this down to a 3-turn cooldown, so nothing bad. I do wish it was 100% chance. The 80% chance kind of deters away from the ability. You can't really rely on it, but yeah, not too bad. On the A3, we have Oni Icon. Places an increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns and a 15% continuous heal buff on all allies for 1 turn. And you can drop this down to a 3-turn cooldown. Pretty cool. Very support type ability. Nothing too big there though, but he is bringing a decreased attack on his A2, and an increased defense and a continuous heal on the A3. So yeah, he's going to be a very good support type champion in my opinion. On his passive, we have Spirit Touched. Remove one random debuff from this champion at the start of each turn. Will remove Stun, Sleep, Freeze, Fear, True Fear, and Provoke debuffs before other buffs. So even though it's a random buff or random debuff, it is going to prioritize the more CC type of debuffs rather than like a decreased defense or decreased attack. It's going to prioritize things that are CCing you, which means unless you have like multiple CC abilities, he's gonna take his turn, which is actually a pretty cool thing. And then his aura increased allied defense in all battles by 25%. Not bad. It's all battles, which is pretty nice. Yeah, nothing too impressive about this champion in my opinion, but he does bring a lot of utility, right? He brings a leech on the A1, a decreased attack on the A2, and an increased defense and continuous heal on the A3, and you're pretty much guaranteed to not be CC'd out of your turn with his passive. The only thing I don't like is the amount of books just to get a 60% chance at a leech on the A1 and only an 80% chance on the A2. So yeah, those are the things that kind of pull me away from this champion is the fact that he just doesn't have any 100% chance on his actual debuffs. But yeah, not a bad champion, but not anything I'd go crazy for. Chani is the next one. Epic Magic Attack Shadowkin. Sorry, this is going to be a little bit of a longer video, guys, by the way. I thought I was going to be able to go through this a little bit quicker, but I guess not. So Chani, Magic Attack Shadowkin, another Shadowkin. Love them adding in some Shadowkin, even though I do think we do need some other love for some other factions, but yeah. So on the A1, Insidious Arrow, attack one enemy, has a 40 or a 60% chance of placing a 25% poison sensitivity debuff for 2 turns on the A1 is kind of interesting. We'll see what the rest of the kit does. Soulfire on the A2 places a increased accuracy debuff, or sorry, increased accuracy buff and an increased accuracy. My gosh, I cannot talk, guys. Sorry. Increase accuracy buff and an increase attack buff on this champion for 2 turns, then attacks one enemy, placing an HP burn debuff for 2 turns if this attack is critical. And you can drop this down to a 3-turn cooldown. Kind of interesting that she does poison sensitivity on the A1, but then does an HP burn on the A2. Let's see what's on the A3. So the A2 is not bad, right? You get increased accuracy and an increased attack on herself, though. This is a very selfish champion, unfortunately, but she does provide an HP burn. On the A3, we have Shower of Misery. Attack all enemies, has a 50 or a 80. Is that an 80% chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs by 1 turn? Once again, the whole 80% chance thing, I'm not liking the whole not having a guaranteed ability, right? Like increasing duration of all debuffs for 1 turn isn't a bad thing, but this is going to be on a 3-turn cooldown, so adding 1 turn is very weird to me, in my opinion. Like things like Vizier, where you have an A1 that will consistent, like it's not consistent because it's only I think a 35% chance, but it's common, right? You can A1 multiple times and stuff like that. This being on a cooldown and only increasing duration by 1 turn is just, it's just weird to me. And the thing is, it's not even 100% chance, right? You only have an 80% chance. So yeah, not liking that ability too much. On the passive, we have Sure Shot, immune to decreased accuracy debuffs. Pretty cool there for like arena and stuff like that. And then increases this champion's crit rate by 0.05 for each for every point of accuracy they have. So that's kind of cool. So they're doing this like whole converting other stats into different stats. So pretty much building a lot of accuracy is also going to give her crit rate, which is kind of cool. The big thing with me though is like there's nothing huge here that you'd want to build a lot of accuracy for, right? You have poison sensitivity on the A1. You have an HP burn on the A2. I guess like the biggest thing that you'd want accuracy for is to make sure that you're extending these debuffs with the A3. Um, but it's an 80% chance. So I'm not exactly sure how I feel about that. Yeah, not liking this champion too much, and it's a lot of books. But yeah. And then has an aura, increase ally accuracy in all battles by 40. Not a bad aura. All battles is always good. Yeah, not a big fan of this one. I could be wrong, or maybe I'm just missing the point of her. But yeah, just to me doesn't bring a lot to the table, because the poison sensitivity is very dependent on obviously having a poisoner. So it's kind of weird that she doesn't have poisons. The A2, she's being selfish with her buffs and placing an HP burn, and the A3, in my opinion, just isn't going to do enough, unless you have maybe consistent debuffers to possibly just extend that one turn, but you're not even guaranteed to extend it with the 80% chance. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to say not liking this one too much. On the A, or on the A, gosh, you guys, I'm going through abilities too much. Next champion is going to be Genbo the Dishonored, an epic void attack based Shadowkin. On the A1, we have twin soul swords. Attack one enemy 2 times. Each hit steals any increased attack buffs. Each hit also has a 30% chance or a 50% chance of stealing a random buff if you book it. The increased attack buff steal cannot be resisted. Kind of a weird ability, but not bad, I guess, for an A1. Always going to steal increased attack if you can. Don't need accuracy for it. And you can possibly steal another random buff. Yeah, I mean, I think they just want to put something on an A1, but yeah. On the A2, we have Heartless Blitz. Attack all enemies, has a 80 or 100% chance, if booked, of decreasing the duration of all buffs by 1 turn. This effect cannot be resisted on critical hits. So yeah, it looks like you're gonna not need to build any accuracy on him, which is kind of cool. Um, and this can go down to a 3-turn cooldown. The weird thing with this ability though is that if you're gonna attack everyone and decrease their buffs, then you're gonna use the A1 to possibly steal the buff. It's gonna have a lower duration, so that's a little bit counteractive, but overall, you're just trying to mainly take buffs off, right? Or decrease buffs, or make sure that your opponents don't have any buffs. So, weird situations, but yeah. On the A3, we have Sword Trance, places a 30% increased crit rate buff and 30% increased crit damage buff on this champion for 3 turns, then grants an extra turn, and this is on a 4-turn cooldown. So pretty much can consistently keep this up 100% of the time, if he chooses to, because you drop it down to a 4-turn cooldown and you're gaining an extra turn with this, technically making it a 3-turn cooldown. I imagine his multipliers are pretty decent though. He is going to be attack based void, so he's not going to have weak hits. Um, he wants to take increased attack away from people. He wants increased crit rate and crit damage from his A3, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, guessing his multipliers are pretty decent. And then we have the Flinty passive, immune to decreased attack debuffs, will ignore unkillable buffs when attacking under an increased attack buff. So you definitely want to provide your own attack buff, increased attack buff, just so that he will ignore unkillable. Definitely think he's going to have a place in PvP with just that fact right there. Yeah, and then increase ally speed in arena battles by 20%. That is a lot more clear. He's definitely meant for arena. The 20% arena battles is pretty cool. The unkillable with an increased attack is really cool. Automatically put Arbiter in there, and he is golden for the most part, because you'll get that increased attack, which means he'll ignore the unkillable from like Skull Crown and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, a weird kit in my opinion. You're decreasing duration of buffs, but then you're also trying to steal them. The nice thing with him though is that he doesn't need any accuracy. You can just build him pure damage based, which is going to be really cool. So in my opinion, interesting champion, definitely for PvP. Looking forward to seeing him in game because he just looks pretty cool. Oh my gosh, we have a lot of champions, guys. Sorry. Next is going to be another Shadowkin, Epic Force Defense Shadowkin, Burangiri. Burangiri. Let me know how you pronounce that. On the A1, we have Battering Skull. Attack one enemy has a 20% or a 40% chance of placing a provoke debuff for one turn. Very low chance of placing a provoke. Unfortunately, not the greatest A1. On the A2, we have Bakamano Charge. Bakamano Charge. Attack all enemies has a 40 or a 60% chance if you book it of placing a stun debuff for one turn on a 3-turn cooldown. Putting him in a stun set might increase the chances of, getting that stun. 60% chance just isn't too great, guys. Like, I don't. You're placing a lot of books on these people for not 100% chance, and I have an issue with that a little bit. But yeah, so nothing too great on the A2 either. On the A3, we have Frightful Warcry. Places a 25% strengthen buff on all allies for 2 turns. It also places a shield buff for 2 turns on all allies with less than 50% HP. The shield buff is equal to 15% of the target's max HP on a 4-turn cooldown. I do like the strengthen buff. I like the fact that you can place a shield buff on lower HP champions. I don't like the fact that it's based on the target's max HP, because typically target's max HP, unless you're running HP champions, are decently low. But yeah, so nothing too great on the A3 either. I do like the strengthen though, so yeah. Then you have a passive Soulmonger, heals his champion by 50% of their max HP whenever an ally or enemy dies. This is kind of cool, I guess, more or less. Obviously, you don't want your allies to die, but enemies dying, getting a passive heal is pretty nice. And then Aura, increase ally resist in all battles by 40. Nothing too crazy. There are better resist auras out there. So yeah, not too impressed with this guy at all. I just think he needs something that he's consistent at, and he's just not. I mean, you're going to consistently get the strengthen, but other than that, you're depending on your allies being 50% or less to get a shield. You only have a 60% chance to land these stuns, and you only have a 40% chance to land this provoke. So he's just very low chance stuff. So maybe, once again, I'm missing the point of him, but yeah. Next, we have 2 rares. So, Marauder, Shadowkin, Spirit Rare, HP Champion. On the A1, we have Attack 1 Enemy Basic, and if you ascend it, you attack the 1 enemy and have a 15 or a 30% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn. Pretty cool A1. It's a rare though, so I mean, having a chance to apply a stun is kind of cool. It is a low chance though, but it's a rare, so understandable. On the A2, Reckless Sweep, attack all enemies has a 50 or a 75% chance of placing a small decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. I like the AoE decrease attack. It is only 75% chance, and it is a weak decrease attack, so nothing too crazy. But if you're needing them in like specific situations, like maybe the Spirit Secret Room, could be definitely useful there. And then A3 Roaring Challenge has a 50 or a 75% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn. Places a shield buff on this champion for 2 turns equal to 20% of their max HP. Also places a 50% or 15% reflect damage buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So the provoke is kind of cool, even though it's only a 75% chance. You're getting a shield buff on this champion equal to 20% of his max HP, which is kind of cool. And the reflect damage could come in handy when doing things like Fire Knight and stuff like that. But he's just not going to be a good candidate for Fire Knight because he has a 1 attack A1 and a 1 attack A2. So yeah, nothing too crazy on the A3. I do like the fact that they're doing a little bit more reflect damage and stuff like that type of abilities, but yeah, nothing too special, but yeah, he's kind of cool. Next, we have Vagabond, another spirit, but he's going to be a support Shadowkin. Dreamer's Curse on the A1, attack 1 enemy has a 20% or a 30% chance, or 40% chance, sorry, of placing a sleep debuff for 1 turn. Sleep debuff, probably the worst CC in the game, but it is some type of CC, and it's on an A1, so you can't complain there. Another spirit that you can possibly use in this spirit room. A2, Ominous Visit. Yeah, Ominous Visit, sorry. On the A2, attack one enemy has a 50 or a 75% chance of placing a block debuff for one turn. Also fills this champion's turn meter by 15% and fills the turn meter of the ally with the highest turn meter by 15% on a 3-turn cooldown. Pretty cool with the whole turn meter fill. The block buffs, once again, not 100% chance, and it's only for one turn, but could come in handy at certain times. I do like this whole turn meter fill though. Pretty cool on the A2. And then on the A3, we have Join the I know it's not troop, but that's how I'm going to pronounce it. Join the troop. Basic fills this turn meter, fill the turn meters of all allies by 15%, or if you ascend him, fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% and places an increased attack buff, small version, on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Not that bad of an ability, to be honest. You have pretty much 2 turn meter fills right here. Obviously for himself and the highest ally turn meter, and then this is everyone. But yeah, he's actually pretty cool. Um, Not exactly sure how he will perform, but Shadowkin needs all the help that they can get right now by getting champions. Then Aura increase ally accuracy in arena by 30. I definitely don't see him as an arena champion. But maybe with this increased turn meter stuff, maybe. But yeah, and that is it. So not that is it. That is a lot in my opinion. But yeah, overall, not some like there's some decent champions in here that I'm kind of excited to get into. Always got to give love to my dwarves. The new Fragment champions right here, so he looks pretty cool. Most excited for this guy if I could ever get him. He is a legendary though, so I highly doubt I'll get him anytime soon. But yeah, overall, not any terrible champions. Some champions are just weird. I wish they would calm down on the books. And if they are gonna do so many books, give them 100% chance of doing things like the whole 80% chance and stuff like that. That's where it kind of bothers me a little bit. But yeah, overall, not bad champions to be added into the game. Definitely looking forward to more champions. But yeah, so the other things I really want to talk quick about, we're almost 40 minutes. So yeah, those are the champions. They are working on an arena fix. If you haven't checked in the Discord announcements, they did talk about this. Pretty much what they're going to be doing is looking at tweaking the matchmaking for bronze and silver, and then also looking at possibly like lowering the amount that like you dropping tiers in those when you're in bronze and silver when defending. So yeah, hopefully that'll help with progression with bronze and silver into the gold area, especially for the arbiter missions. The other thing is, yes, we do have new missions coming out for another champion. We have yet to actually see that champion or his kit yet, so I was hoping that they were going to come out with a video about that by now, actually, but we just haven't seen anything about that as of yet. So definitely look forward to that. Tomorrow, I believe, should be the update. And the update is going to be the higher level dungeons as well, so 21 through 25, along with the potion keeps going up also 5 levels, which will be cool because that gets the brews out of the potion keeps. Yeah, some of the content creators that have access to the test server are already doing the level 25 dungeons. They aren't looking too terrible, so that is a good thing. I have yet to actually look and see if anyone's talked about the rewards as of yet though. So depending on what the reward artifact wise is for level 25, it might just not be worth it. It might just be one of those things you do level 25 to get it done, and then you go back to farming 20. We'll see how that goes. Obviously they're going to implement that into the missions though, so definitely keep that in mind. Check out those content creator videos, make sure that you're planning ahead for all those dungeons. Everyone's going to be going crazy. We also have the CVC tournament going on right now. So that's going to kind of play a role with the new dungeons if you're able to complete those and stuff like that. Yeah, that is mainly all I wanted to talk about. I know that is a lot. I missed a lot. So yeah, mainly new champions coming out. new dungeon levels coming out for the Dragon, Ice Golem, Spider, Fire Knight from 21 to 25. Make sure you're planning for all of that. New champion missions eventually. Not exactly sure if that's coming out with the patch or not because we haven't gotten any news about it. But yeah, so much going on. Definitely try to pace yourself, guys. I know a lot of people are talking about being burnt out in the game. I am somewhat burnt out at this moment, just because we had a lot of stuff going on with the last fusion, and having to participate in every single thing kind of burnt me out. But yeah, just pace yourself. Make sure you are playing the game for fun. Make sure you are having fun. And if you're not, walk away for a little while. Come back recharged, especially for like certain events like the Fragment Summon, things that are only going to be around for a specific amount of time. CVC every couple weeks is going to be around. Dungeons always going to be around, stuff like that. But definitely make sure you're checking out the new content, stuff that's specific for a certain amount of time. Yeah, enjoy the game. Let me know what you guys think of these champions. Let me know what you guys think of the dungeons coming out level wise, if you guys have a plan and whatnot, and I will talk to you guys later. See you.